Welcome to the Horn Review podcast series, where we dive deep into the pressing political, security, and geopolitical issues shaping the Horn of Africa and beyond. I'm your host, Jarani Tesfaye, and today we have a special guest who is at the forefront of Ethiopia's foreign policy and strategic thinking. Joining us is Dr. Abdi Zenebe, Deputy Director of the Institute of Foreign Affairs, one of Ethiopia's leading policy institutions. A vocal champion of strategic autonomy, Dr. Abdi advocates for Ethiopia's self-reliance in both economic and foreign policy spheres. With extensive experience in politics and international relations, he has been instrumental in shaping discussions around domestic reforms and Ethiopia's global positioning. In today's conversation, we will explore Ethiopia's pursuit of strategic autonomy, the balance between foreign aid and self-sufficiency, the impact of homegrown economic reforms, and how these evolving policies will influence Ethiopia's diplomatic and geopolitical future. Stay tuned.
Thank you very much. What an entrance. It's a very extended press inquiry. I'm glad to be here, and as you have rightly said, I strongly believe what are we doing at a national level and both at the regional and global level, what Ethiopia is trying to communicate goes in line with the strategic autonomy. Here, in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say when I say strategic autonomy is the capability of a country or a state to make independent decisions regarding to economic, political or social developments without undue influence by any alien or external force. This is a very essential element. Especially it's critical to safeguard one's national interests. At the same time, it is very important to ensure self-sufficiency and ensure also your sovereignty as well. So I think this is a very important element. I think Ethiopia, in an aggressive manner, entered into the aspect of strategic autonomy, what we can say, starting from 2018, with the commencement of the reform process that we are in. Because why we say this is because when we talk about strategic autonomy, it's not only material matters. It's not only economic or something that's quantifiable, but it is also goes beyond that. Like, for example, the policy orientation, the world view, the philosophy you entertain. And as a result, since 2018, Ethiopia's primary philosophy and ideology of the foundation has been the Madamar philosophy, as you know. And this has been an inspiration for the policy orientation across different sectors. When you examine the policy orientation in the security sector, political sector, economic sector, wherever you go, you see the elements of the Madamar philosophy that emanates from the national reality. So it is a very important element when one country aspires to realize its full autonomy and enhanced strategic autonomy. It is a very critical to start from a paradigm shift and understanding the source of the thought process that governs every action. So from that point of view, I think it's a very important element, and you see it everywhere, whether in a country's aspiration to beautify and show its new color to the global community at large, or in its aspiration to ensure food security or energy security for that matter, and all of these things, or the aspiration to enhance its domestic stability, or encourage regional integration, or secure an outlet, and all these areas, what we are looking at is the country's attempt to fully stand on its feet. That's what we mean by strategic autonomy. And this has to be detected by its own will, its own aspiration, based on its capability. That's what I'm trying to say when I say strategic autonomy.
Great, thank you. My second question is, Ethiopia has long relied on foreign aid, as we all know, for its aid and development. So how can the country balance the benefits of aid while also trying to maintain true strategic autonomy, like you just explained? And also with that, what lessons can be drawn from other nations that have successfully transitioned from aid dependency?
It is quite important to understand matters in a proper perspective. And one of the important angles one has to look into the Ethiopian politics, political economy, and international relations, I strongly believe, is through transitology. The understanding of a country within a transition period. That's a very critical element. In a transition, you see a lot of things being examined the appraisal goes every which way. So the country is truly examining its soul, its purpose, its challenges, it's the way it needs to overcome these existing problems, backlogs that date back, as you know, it has a very long history, the country. So as a result, it's very important to see it from that prism. So one of the important things for the Ethiopian government, which considers itself as a government that is endowed the responsibility. It has a responsibility bestowed upon it to lead the country towards a transition period, towards a better democracy, towards democracy. So this is a transition period. In this transition period, what is expected is to address backlogs that existed before. And one of the problems that we have been experiencing is excessive dependency. What brought those dependencies? We have to look into examine our different policies. That has been a major priority. So the country, there was an attempt in a number of ways, an attempt when, for example, the country transitioned from the monarchy towards the Derg regime. There was a transition period, but that was revolutionary. And the country rather brought more problems than addressing the matter. And again, when it is examined the transition from the Derg period to the EPRDF, again there was an attempt, but it was also revolutionary, the group that came through armed struggle. We have learned a lot from these experiences. Now we are in a transition, but this transition is managed through reform. So whatever we are doing, it encompasses three important elements emanated from the Medemar philosophy. One, it has to be people-centered. A very quick, rapid change might create a huge disaster. And also we have to take into consideration not only the notion of that the end matters, but we have to consider also the means matters. So every Ethiopian, that this people-centered approach is very critical. And the second most important element, which is very different that we see today in Ethiopian long history, is the ideologies that we are entertaining, the political economic thinking that we are entertaining emanates from within. For example, when you see the transition from the monarchy again to the Derg regime, it was scientific socialism what we are aspiring to implement at that time, which goes again in the social fabric of the country. From the social-political experience of the country, it's very much alien, as you know, and you understand. But now, one of the important elements that we extract from Medemar is a social capital. That Ethiopia is now understanding that our ways, the sagacity and our different values will enable us to understand and appreciate our problems, and that also they are instrumental to solve and address our challenges. So we, of course, are part and parcel of the global community. We take a lot of lessons from different parts of the world, but it's very, very much essential to understand this aspect. And the third and most importantly is the synergy that we need to work together within ourselves, among our different clavets, and also with the neighboring countries, and with a number of different actors across the world. We are not partisan in that regard. So synergy is also the third most important element. So I think from the other countries as well, we can examine countries in transition. We have been doing this actually a lot, starting from 1820s, for example, when the Western European countries moving out of monarchy towards democracy. And when you examine the experience of each and the different countries across different parts of the world, up until the Arab Spring and other things, you see common elements. What happened to nations? What happened to societies? Passing through this transition period. This transition is important for Ethiopia because it is a democratic transition. It's not a transition from one authoritarian system to another, but it passes towards democracy. And this is conducted not in a revolutionary manner, but in a reform manner. And what are the components here is to ensure strategic autonomy from a different side. That's why we are very much adamant to finish, the Renaissance Dam, for example, because we have to ensure our energy security. That's a very critical element. That's why we are aspiring to have an outlet in order to bring about prosperity. So that's a very highly interconnected matters, if I get your question correct. Yeah.
Yes. So as we all know, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's administration has introduced a homegrown economic reform that are aimed at sustainable growth. So what are the key pillars of these reforms, and also how have they influenced Ethiopia's economic trajectory and also push for continued development?
Again, here what you see is an African country adopting a policy orientation emanated from within. This is a new trend. There are few lucky countries at the global south at large where we will see countries coming up with their own ideology and pursuing with their own political economic thinkings and thoughts and pursuing that to a better end. And that's a very important thing. That shows that Ethiopia has a degree of strategic autonomy already. How can we enhance this strategic autonomy? So these policy packages are very much critical. The homegrown economic reform, as you know, has two packages. At first and foremost, initial aspiration was to adjust the macroeconomic imbalance. That's a very important element. And then there is also a desire, a need to address strategic backlogs. Very serious. We have to unravel this matter. And also there is an importance of ensuring inclusivity and sustainability as well. In the homegrown economic too, we are aspiring to deepen these aspirations. These are very important. These are big packages. In each of them, there is a physical element, there is a financial element, there is also a combination of different elements in trying to address the structural level, focusing on agriculture, mining, manufacturing, tourism, and digitalization as well. These are very important elements for Ethiopia. But why are we doing this? How are these connected to the aspect of strategic autonomy? And one of the things here is the desire of the government through homegrown economic system to reduce dependency on foreign aid, dependency on foreign capital. This is a very important element. The major aspiration is this. As a result of this, the government is no longer getting a commercial loan, for example, and through different initiatives, like for example, from dependency to productivity. Initiatives and other things, Ethiopia is reducing food dependency from outside, and also in a mechanized farming. And with extensive potential the country has, it's pretty much reducing also, getting foreign aid and other things. This is a very, very important element. And besides that, also it has been promoting domestic factories to produce more, and at the same time diversify its export market. At the same time, materials that need to be exported has been diversified. This is an important element rather than going on or focusing only one commodity. To diversify, it will give you the opportunity. And at the same time, also the national security issues is very, very important, especially in connection to infrastructure development. The adamant stance that we collectively need to complete our Grand Renaissance Dam and building more others as well is connected to ensuring the country's energy security. Telecommunication, for example. The country achieved a lot by extending its telecommunication infrastructure. Now we have a potential also to go outside of the country. There is movements. And also transportation and others. These are critical elements. And also in terms of finance as well, to provide financial access like never before for the masses through digital means and otherwise as well. This has been a very, very critical element. And also our change in understanding skill as well. Technology matters, capacity building matters. So there is now a huge ministry dedicated to such activities, encouraging startups, encouraging entrepreneurs and other things. All this, the aggregate of this, goes in line with making Ethiopia more independent, enhancing its sovereign status. That's what we mean by strategic autonomy in connection to this policy.
Great. Let me now take your focus to the U.S. With the Trump administration freezing U.S. aid funding and discussions of dismantling it, what immediate and long-term effects could this have on Ethiopia and also other aid-dependent nations like ourselves?
As you see, I'm a person who focuses on transitions. So one has to be cautious and judging where this new U.S. administration is heading. Of course, in any administration, and then the transition period aims to achieve its goals by using an institution for tactical purposes. So the dust have not yet settled, but we are observing the issue because some of the issues appear very much abrupt. I would like to express my heartfelt appreciation for the patience of large number of Ethiopians who are working in USAID or USAID affiliated organizations. I think they have to be patient. They have to see what is going to come out of it. But the relationship between US and Ethiopia has multi layers, as you know. USAID is not the only interconnector. interlocutor. Rather, there are different State Department, DOD, and others. Of course, with the USAID, since its very establishment, it has a presence in Ethiopia. They're very long partnership. Ethiopia graduated in a number of different areas across decades, but still we have areas yet to, address this need to further enhance our strategic autonomy and reduce dependency in areas of, for example, healthcare, as well as education and the water sector have been very much dependent on the USAID support funds. But in other areas also we are showing a major improvement. For example, as you know, Ethiopia has huge potential. Ethiopia's arable land coverage is estimated to be from 35 million to 50 million hectares. And we only need, for example, to address for recovery and other purposes, less than 300,000 hectares of yield. So this shows how much potential we have. So from this, what we learn, and with the new ideas that we are entertaining, we are very quickly coming out of such dependencies. The fact that Ethiopia is producing not only one season, but multiple seasons through these initiatives. And at the same time, by multiple initiatives emanated out of, especially from His Excellency, the Prime Minister, like Gabata Lahagar, the bounty of baskets, and other initiatives are enabling Ethiopians to stand on their feet. And this shows that there is a potential. There is a potential for Ethiopia, for a country like Ethiopia, a huge potential that we are looking at directly, that we can very quickly graduate from this aid dependency and similar issues. In the same manner, other countries as well, can focus on multiple things, especially coming to Horn of Africa. Our fate is highly intertwined together. We have common problems. We have strong ties, blood, language, and everything is interconnected. So through a greater degree of interdependence and integration, we can address this challenge. We can overcome collectively this dependency. We can enhance intra-Africa trade and exchange of goods and other things. This is a very important element to overcome aid dependency. But this is, I think, a wake-up call, especially for a person like me who propagates the idea of the importance of strategic autonomy. I think this is a wake-up call, and this can be also done very quickly, I believe.
Great. So to sustain its reforms and, as you mentioned, strategic autonomy, what policy adjustments are needed? And also, what role do the private sector, entrepreneurship, and also foreign direct investment play in this transformation?
I truly believe Ethiopia is already leading a transition. And this transition and the management of how Ethiopia is leading this transition is based in our time. Transitions are always challenging. We can compare it with the neighboring countries who are undergoing a similar political trajectory, but we are managing the base transition, I believe, with all the difficulties. And this is because of the policy orientation. The policy level, I think we are on the right path. What is important and needed is a greater degree of societal mobilization. That's a very important element. This is a country of a youth, and the emergence and the rise and the flourishment of startups and entrepreneurs is an amazing matter. So perhaps for mobilization and for political related matters, we need to have these innovators entering into this sphere so that we can address governance challenges, quickly overcome these difficulties. This is the reason why we are now also talking about political innovation. Political innovation is also a new concept that's very, very important, where innovators, entrepreneurs who have a concern for their country, indicate ways of improving governance structure, ways of societal mobilization, and also addressing social problems. So entrepreneurs need to be very much comfortable with the realm of politics, with the sphere of politics, so that we need also, like we are addressing a lot of issues in social, economic, and other sectors, with high-mind young Ethiopians. Also bringing this to the political sphere as well will address these challenges. And the involvement of the private sector also critical. Ethiopia is truly now moving out of a command economy, planned economic system, and entering into a market-based system. Involving the private sector is mandatory. It is highly important. So this will bring very quickly a very competitive, a very productive economy definitely going to be established here. And for this, Ethiopia is willing to work with its neighbors and to increase integration and to further degree. So we are very much happy to see on this regards. But I strongly believe the policy orientation is correct. A greater degree of mobilization can speed up the process of making Ethiopia, enhance Ethiopia's strategy.
Great. So as Ethiopia moves away from foreign aid, like you just mentioned, how do you see its economic and foreign policy evolving? And in relation to that, what will this cause for the relationship we have with major powers and financial institutions such as the IMF and the World Bank?
One of the most important things when you talk about strategic autonomy is that means you know what you are looking for and you understand where you want to go further. That is the matter that's detecting the Ethiopian foreign policy. So Ethiopia today has a dream. This dream is prosperity. Ethiopia has a dream. The dream is to ensure comprehensive peace, lasting peace. Ethiopia has a dream. The dream is regional integration, to live in harmony across the region. We strongly believe our fate is highly intertwined with our neighbors. So to achieve this, what is our priority? To achieve this, to work with all actors who have common vision like ours. So Ethiopia also in the past, in the history, have a huge capability of hedging, working with different assorted actors at a global level. So this will also continue in this manner. But achieving prosperity demands working with others as well. Ethiopia is no longer closed now. Ethiopia is opening up. This foreign policy orientation, it starts from its neighbor. This unique, the Horn First foreign policy, the Horn First doctrine is a very unique thing, what we are experiencing as a nation. So giving utmost attention to our neighbors through give and take policies, and also to the Middle East, with the West, with the East, with everyone that wants to work with Ethiopia. Ethiopia is open. So what is detecting Ethiopia's foreign policy orientation is its own national interest. Like not in the past, it's not ideological orientation, it is not alignments or this or that. Ethiopia is committed to achieving its national security priorities, its national interest. This national interest will push us, the aspiration to defeat dependency, which is a collective shame on us. We want to expunge this from our history. This is generational responsibility. In order to do this, we work with all different actors. And we have, I think, the establishment and the infrastructure and the experience in the past as well, and also the current leadership that's capable of managing partnership across different spectrums with different nations across the world. So I think what's detecting is our national interest. That's the most important element.
So in relation to this, does this shift signal a more assertive diplomatic role for Ethiopia and also in the regional and global affairs?
That's the most important thing, I think. When you have a dream, it's a very important element. When you have a purpose, that's a very critical matter. So in order to achieve this dream, in order to achieve this goal, you have to knock doors. You have to give olive hands. Ethiopia has, as I said, has a vision, has a dream, and also set out an approach. This approach is peaceful approach. This approach is interdependency through integration. This gives the diplomatic sector a huge task to undertake. So Ethiopia is willing to engage with all different actors because we want to realize, for example, we want a market for our products. We want to attract foreign direct investment. We want to get support from different sides. We want also to give to others. So Ethiopia will become a more active player at a regional level. We have a burden and responsibility. And also we want to play an important role. Horn of Africa is getting a very important focus now because the overall economy and the global pivot is shifting towards Asia Pacific, and a number of countries in Asia are rising. This makes the Horn of Africa a very important player. We can't afford to ignore this. And we have to take this as an opportunity for the betterment of our people, for the betterment of Africa and the sub-region at large. So we have an agenda. That's why we are going proactive diplomacy we are following through a pragmatic means by prioritizing and ensuring our national interest.
Great. My final question to you, Dr. Abdi, is as the Deputy Director of a premier Ethiopian foreign policy think tank, IFA, what is your vision for the country's diplomatic future? And also in relation to that, what key milestones should the country aim for in reducing aid dependency, like you just mentioned, and also asserting greater economic independence and global standing?
Quite extended one, I must say. One of the important things is the realization that Ethiopia is in a comprehensive reform process. That's a very important element. And this comprehensive transition that is being laid by through a reform process and approach requires understanding the delicate parts of reforming institutions and inculcating the new ideals and visions into institutions, and then creating structure that can accommodate these new ideals. And also we have to talk about bringing behavioral transformation as well in order to realize democracy, in order to bring about a consolidated democracy. We need to, each and every one of us, need to also go through deep self-elucidation and understand and change, because when we say our nation, our beloved country, it's not something external. It also emanates from within our heart. So we have to be ready to end the history of dependency, the history of aid and such matters. There is a huge aspiration by the government, a huge commitment by our premier. I'm proud to say that in a very short period of time we are going to see Ethiopian aid going out of the country to the different areas. This is a very important element. We have that dream. We have the generations that's capable of doing this. And for this, I think knowledge plays a very critical role. We have to produce knowledge from a different angle. And one of the things that the overall decision-making process seemed to lack in the past is an informed decision-making process. So our responsibility as IFA, in collaboration with, of course, your esteemed institution as well, is to produce knowledge, fresh knowledge that can provide the decision maker, the policy maker, an option to choose from. So nowadays, we are very much lagging behind. The politicians and the decision maker is ahead, while knowledge production is lagging behind. We have to cope up, and we have to mobilize the elite of the country to produce refined knowledge so that the country better understands its potential, its capability, and also have the capability to maneuver in a wide variety of areas. And as you know, the geopolitical space is becoming very diverse. That AI is a new latest matter. I'm proud to say that the Prime Minister has established an infrastructure, an institution, for 5-6 years. But this is a very important foresight. Now the world is competing on these areas. We have been preparing our energy security. Energy, as you know, is getting very, very at the center of the global politics. We are also doing that. This shows that the country is on a right trajectory. We need to bring support to these actions and pursuits. This is a very critical element. In terms of the global geopolitical developments, it is I think it's demand another discussion, another podcast perhaps. But what we are witnessing, I strongly believe, is very unique. As an international relations student, we are trying to understand through power transition theory and other instruments what happens when a global order is challenged from different sides, from the protector and from other sides as well. But also, what are these things bring to a country like ours? The benefits, the challenges, and how can we prepare our country in this regard? And how can we contribute to humanity also in terms of ideas and other means as well? This has been a major preoccupation in our institute, but I strongly believe the enhanced strategic autonomy of the country will have a positive impact across the Horn of Africa region, and the stability of the Horn of Africa region, and the prosperity of the Horn of Africa region will have an impact, I strongly believe, to the Great Lakes and the nearby regions. The Horn of Africa, as you know, is an insulator, and also by part of the global political-economic as well corridor that it's in the host the choke points. So as a result, I think it contributes positively to the betterment of international trade and other things as well.
Thank you. We have had an important discussion. Thank you once again for coming on the Horn Review Show, Dr. Abdi. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching Strategic Dialogue, a Horn Review podcast series brought to you in partnership with the Ethiopian Institute of Foreign Affairs. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss future episodes.